Good morning, I'm Remo, and breaking overnight, Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan, with hostage releases beginning immediately. This is the Daily Signal for October 9th, 2025.
Unfiltered. Now,
Here are the other top stories for October 9th. Ecuador's president survives violent attack on his motorcade by angry protesters. Macron announces he'll name France's new prime minister within 48 hours amid political crisis. Rubio passes Trump urgent note about Middle East peace breakthrough during heated roundtable. Inside Gaza's ruins, displaced families reveal the brutal reality of war. Israeli intelligence warns Hamas may be unable to return all dead hostages. Israeli Navy intercepts Gaza flotilla. 150 activists face immediate deportation. Europe erupts in food labeling war. The battle over how sausage gets made. Japan's next prime minister faces coalition revolt before even taking office. Pelicot rape trial explodes as victim confronts appellant. I never gave consent. Now let's dive into each story. The impossible just happened. After 15 months of devastating war, Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of President Trump's peace plan. Here's what's happening right now. Hamas will release all remaining hostages, both living and dead, taken during the October 7th attacks. In exchange, Israeli forces will withdraw to what's being called an agreed-upon line inside Gaza. This deal was brokered by the United States, Egypt, and Qatar after months of behind-the-scenes negotiations. The breakthrough came just hours after Trump's team presented what sources are calling a take-it-or-leave-it ultimatum to both sides. Why this matters? This is the first concrete step toward ending a conflict that's claimed over 45,000 lives and displaced nearly 2 million Palestinians. But remember, this is only phase one. The real test comes in the implementation. Violence erupted on the streets of Ecuador as protesters launched a coordinated attack on President Daniel Noboa's motorcade. The president emerged unharmed, but security footage shows rocks and Molotov cocktails striking his armored vehicle. The attack happened during anti-government demonstrations over rising crime rates and economic instability. Ecuador has become a major transit route for cocaine trafficking, with violence spilling into major cities. This matters because Ecuador sits at the heart of South America's drug trade route. Political instability here affects the entire region's security and could trigger a new migration crisis. French President Emmanuel Macron has given himself exactly 48 hours to name a new prime minister, ending weeks of political paralysis that's gripped France since snap elections. The urgency comes as France faces a looming government shutdown. Without a functioning government, France cannot pass its budget, potentially triggering the country's worst political crisis in decades. Here's the challenge. Macron needs someone who can survive a no-confidence vote in a deeply divided parliament. The far-right and far-left parties are already sharpening their knives. Why you should care? France is Europe's second-largest economy. Political chaos here sends shockwaves through global markets and could destabilize the entire European Union. In a dramatic scene captured on camera, Senator Marco Rubio interrupted a heated roundtable discussion to pass an urgent, handwritten note to President Trump about the Middle East peace breakthrough. Sources say the note contained real-time updates about the Gaza ceasefire negotiations, forcing Trump to abruptly change his talking points mid-discussion. The meeting was supposed to focus on domestic anti-extremism efforts, but the Middle East crisis took over the room. This shows how foreign policy continues to dominate even domestic political discussions. The key detail: Trump's team is positioning this ceasefire as proof of his continued influence on world affairs. Behind the diplomatic headlines lies a devastating reality. Inside one battle-scarred apartment building in northern Gaza, families are telling stories that will haunt the world. The BBC gained rare access to displaced families living in ruins without electricity, water, or adequate food. Children describe eating grass to survive. Parents talk about choosing which child gets the last piece of bread. One mother told reporters, "My daughter asks why the bombing stopped, but the dying hasn't." This building houses 47 people in spaces meant for 12. This matters because even with a ceasefire agreement, the humanitarian crisis is far from over. Rebuilding Gaza will take decades and billions of dollars. Israeli intelligence sources are quietly warning that Hamas may not be able to return all dead hostages, casting doubt on the ceasefire deal's completeness. The grim reality: some bodies may have been destroyed in bombing raids, while others remain buried under rubble in areas Hamas no longer controls. This could complicate the hostage exchange phase of the agreement. Israeli families are caught between hope and despair. They want their loved ones back, but they're also facing the possibility that some may never be recovered. This creates a potential breaking point for the ceasefire. If Hamas cannot deliver what they've promised, the entire deal could collapse within weeks. The Israeli Navy intercepted the latest Gaza aid flotilla in international waters, detaining 150 activists who now face immediate deportation. The activists from 12 countries were attempting to break Israel's naval blockade of Gaza with medical supplies and food. Israeli authorities say the flotilla posed a security threat. This timing is crucial. The interception happened just hours before the ceasefire announcement, suggesting Israel wanted to send a message that it won't tolerate unauthorized aid deliveries even during peace talks. Europe is at war over sausage. The European Union is debating new food labeling rules that would require detailed ingredient lists and production methods on all processed meats. The battle lines are drawn. Germany and Italy want to protect traditional recipes, while Nordic countries push for transparency about additives and processing methods. This might sound trivial, but it's actually about trade worth billions. These rules will affect every supermarket across 27 countries and could change how food is produced globally. Japan's likely next prime minister is facing a coalition revolt before even taking office. Internal party documents show growing opposition to the frontrunner's economic policies. The crisis centers on proposed tax increases to fund defense spending. With China's growing military presence in the region, Japan needs to boost its defense budget, but voters are resisting higher taxes. This political instability comes at the worst possible time, with tensions rising across the Taiwan Strait and North Korea conducting missile tests. In a dramatic courtroom moment, rape survivor Giselle Pellico directly confronted her attacker, stating emphatically, "I never gave him consent," as the defendant appealed his conviction. The case has become a symbol of France's #MeToo movement. Pellico waived her right to anonymity to make the trial public, saying shame must change sides. Her direct confrontation of the appellant sent shockwaves through the courtroom and has been viewed millions of times on social media, inspiring other survivors to speak out. Looking across today's stories, 3 critical themes emerge that will shape the weeks ahead. First, we're witnessing a potential turning point in global conflicts. The Gaza ceasefire represents the first major diplomatic breakthrough in the Middle East in over a year. But success depends on implementation, and history shows us that ceasefire agreements are easier to sign than to honor. Second, political instability is spreading across democracies. From France's government crisis to Japan's coalition troubles to Ecuador's street violence, established political systems are under strain. This isn't coincidence. It's the result of economic pressures, social divisions, and growing distrust in traditional institutions. Third, the power of individual voices is growing. Whether it's Giselle Pellico confronting her attacker or displaced families in Gaza telling their stories, personal testimonies are cutting through political noise and forcing accountability. Here's what to watch. The Gaza ceasefire implementation will be the biggest test of international diplomacy this year. If it succeeds, it could provide a model for resolving other conflicts. If it fails, we could see an escalation that draws in regional powers. The political crises in France and Japan aren't just domestic issues. They affect global economic stability and security alliances at a time when the world can least afford weakness in democratic institutions. This is Remo with the Daily Signal. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, these stories aren't just headlines. They're shaping the world you'll wake up to tomorrow.
Unfiltered. Now.